Hey everyone, and welcome to this new edition of Cartoon Flashback HD. Today we're going to look at a cartoon that, came out uh, back in the early 70s. As a matter of fact, I have the DVD courtesy of Frank Hill. It's Frank right in front of me. And today we're going to look and discuss Yogi's Gang. This was a series that came out, I believe, if it's got the information here somewhere. I don't know if it does. Let me check here. I'm sorry, that was the thing. That was the computer. It does that when it takes a while to catch things up. I think it's got to update on a lot of things soon. 19. It looks like it says 1973. Yeah. 1973. Yogi's Gang. According to Wikipedia here, Yogi's Gang, the series itself, premiered on September 8th, 1973, and ended on December 29th, 1973. It only got basically a full uh, a full season run. It was comprised of 15 episodes and a TV movie. Now, the TV movie was Yogi's Ark Lark. Yogi's Ark Lark was part of the ABC Saturday Superstar movie series, and basically it was the pilot, and it says it here. It's the first thing you see on here. It says includes Yogi's Ark Lark, which served as the pilot to Yogi's Gang. And Yogi's Gang was probably the largest cast at the time of characters comprised in one animated series. You see, later on, as I mentioned with the history of Laugh Olympics, Laugh Olympics, broke ground by having the largest cast of characters ever for an animated series. Now, Yogi's Ark Lark kind of started that trend, and Yogi's Gang continued that trend, and by comprising of a lot of characters on this show. Now, the characters, I do believe I have a list here. The characters from the hanna-barbera library consisted of sorry about that, just picking some stuff up here. Consisted of Adam Ant, Augie Doggy, and Daddy Doggy Daddy, the Hillbilly Bears, which was a family of bears that were hillbilly, except I think the daughter was more in tune with up to date stuff. But the Hillbilly Bears, Hokey Wolf and Dingaling, Huckleberry Hound, Lamsey, Lippy the Lion, and Hardy Har Har, Magilla Gorilla, Moby Dick from Moby Dick and Mighty uh, Manthar, Peter Potamus and So-So, Pixie and Dixie, Quick Draw McGraw and Babalooey, Rough and Ready. I guess they were on there. I didn't see them. Sawtooth the Beaver, Secret Squirrel, Snagglepuss, Squiddly Diddly, Top Cat and his gang, Touche Turtle and Dum Dum, Wally Gator, Yankee Doodle and Chopper, and of course Yogi and Boo Boo and an unknown dinosaur character. Now, that's a pretty intense. That's a pretty well-known list for Hanna-Barbera characters to be in one show. But like I said, this set the tone and it even says on Wikipedia and other sites, this set the tone for future shows to come. Laugh Olympics, Yogi's First Christmas, Treasure Hunt, uh, the Superstar 10 movies of Yogi's Great Escape, and what was the other one he did? It was Yogi's Great Escape. Um, I gotta look here. Hold on. You see, oh, Magic Flight of the Spruce Goose, Yogi's Great Escape, and the Magical Flight of the Spruce Goose. Um, Again, Ark Lark set the tone. Ark Lark slash Yogi's Gang set the tone for Laugh Olympics, First Christmas, Yogi's All Star Christmas Caper. Let's not leave that out. Um, his two of his three superstar movies, uh, Great Escape and Magical Flight of the Spruce Goose. It set the tone for those, and this was something that was unprecedented, at the time. Now, here's the thing: was the show good? Well, it only ran for one season, which some might take as, well, was it really wasn't that good. But in a sense, it was kind of good because it was a first, if you will, for television. Well, one of the first for television, and this was way before uh, the EI logo was ever shown. Be- you know, During the start of a show, because this was more of an environmental educational show, than anything else. Basically, the plot was that Yogi and his gang, from what I can remember, and maybe Wikipedia can help me out here. Uh, basic, Basically, it was a show that had Yogi and the cast of characters that I talked about, flying around looking for the perfect place, a place free of pollution, deforestation, and other forms of mankind's dispartment. In other words, in other words, and this is for Ark Lark, and this is the plot for Ark Lark. So that was basically the plot for Ark Lark, and let me see here. The plot, let's see, is similar to the series. Let's see, Yogi, Quickdraw, Huck, and the rest of the gang encounter a variety of villains such as Captain Swashbuckle, Swipe, Smokestack Smog, Lotta Litter, the Envy Brothers, Mr. Hothead, Dr. Bigot, and his henchmen, the Gossipy Witch of the West, J. Waterman Vandal, the Sheik of Selfishness, Commodore Venus P. Fibber, I. M. Sloppy, Peter D. Cheater, Mr. Waste, Hilarious P. Prankster, and the Greedy Genie, who all act as the friends, host, and other guests, but embody some of the most common human faults and vices. It says here, Yogi and crew would often put up with them, which ends with the villains either being repelled or outdone by their actions. And every episode was named after the villain they would encounter. Now, what's funny about this is you might say, well, why was that such a trend? Why did they name it like that? It's kind of similar, and I know some people get a little sick and tired of people like me comparing it to this, but it's similar in a sense to the first season of Sonic Sat AM. Sonic Sat AM, every episode except for the pilot, Heads or Tails, was named with Sonic's name in it. You had supersonic, ultrasonic, subsonic, Sonic and the Secret Scrolls. You get the idea. So you had um, all these titles named after Sonic in the first season, but then they kind of put more variety into the second season. With Yogi's gang, it was basically they took the concept of who was going to be the villain of the week and gave them the title for the show for the episode. And basically, like I said, it was kind of like the early indication, the early examples of of being an educational film, I mean educational series. You see, the education about it was teaching kids and maybe even families the the wrongs of bigotry, of greediness, lying, gossiping, littering, waste, sloppiness, cheating. Let's see, vandalism, uh, selfishness, smog, enviness, swiping, stealing, basically, hothead, basically temper. So it basically, in a sense, like I said, was the first EI educational series on Saturday mornings. But like I said, this was way before. This was like 20 something years before the EI system really came into being that this was shown. And it was there to teach lessons for the kids to learn and to uh, for kids to learn and maybe even families to learn and take to heart. But it was done with the help of Yogi and his friends. Now it like I said, it had that educational part of it. But what was funny was even though you knew it was educational, if you watch the series today, if you watch this series today, it's educational. You look it up, it's educational. You find out about it, everything like watching this video. You find out that it was an educational series. But what was funny about it, what was funny about it is the educational part was not thrown in your face. Like you knew it was being presented. You knew the lesson that was going to be learned. You kind of had an idea, but it wasn't but that educational part wasn't thrown right in your face. And you were presented with a very good series, with a very good episode in between. So it's kind of like a good balancing, in my opinion. Now, it did have something that was very common, though, with Hanna-Barbera shows and certain other animated shows at that time. It had a laugh track. I know you're thinking, wait a minute, Arc Lark. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, wait a minute, Yogi's Gang had a laugh track. Yeah, you see, this was a common trait with a lot of Hanna-Barbera cartoons and other cartoons out there as well. Non-Hanna-Barbera, Hanna-Barbera, but Hanna-Barbera is more, infamous, more well known for it than any other animation studio. Although there were some that did the same thing, like Filmation, I think, did it with some of their series for a while. But Hanna-Barbera was more notorious for it because they wanted to make it feel like it was being done in front of a studio audience, even though it was animated. They did this with the new Scooby-Doo movies. They did this with Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Of course, they did this with the Flintstones, the Jetsons. Any show at the time that they thought they could present as being like a sitcom, an animated sitcom, they would add a laugh track to it to kind of, like I say, make you feel like it's being filmed in front of a studio audience, or make you feel like it's a sitcom, as well. In my opinion, is kind of emphasize that what's going on is funny and you should laugh along with it. So yeah, Yogi's Gang had a laugh track to it, even though some people might think, well, when they released it onto onto DVD, which I got here, I'm sure a lot of people might think, well, they should have just edited out the laugh track and been done with it. That's true. They could have done that, and I think there was some future broadcast of it on other networks and cable channels that did that at times to kind of incorporate that it's just a regular cartoon series. Now, it did have some guest characters in there as well. As a matter of fact, we take a look at the voice cast, and it did have some guest characters, well, kind of like on and off characters as well. And what I mean by on and off characters, uh, not once but twice, Cindy Bear appeared. Um, Cindy Bear appeared in Yogi's gang. Now, the reason she was included was, of course, she's part of the Yogi Bear franchise. She's Yogi Bear's girlfriend, his love interest. The only thing was, though, was the only thing was she was never a part officially. She was never officially part of the crew. She was never officially part of it. She was basically, someone that would come, uh, that would appear when necessary. Now, she appeared in both the first few episodes. Now, she appeared, I think, in the fifth episode of the series and in the last episode of the series. That's right. She appeared in the fifth episode, which was on October 6, 1973, according to Wikipedia, and in the last official episode, which was Mr. Hothead, which aired on December 15th, 1973, according to Wikipedia. Now, here's the reason she was brought in. She was brought in because she became a central point, if you will, of those episodes. In a way, she became like a, a center point to those episodes. Why? Well, in the Gossipy Witch, because I've seen the episode. Um, Basically, she becomes a central plot point in a way in the fifth episode because the Gossipy Witch, no, uh, who basically spreads gossip, untrue gossip, if you will, untrue rumors all over, basically spreads a rumor that Yogi's engaged to Cindy and is planning, and because of that, is planning to leave the Yogi's gang, the gang in the Ark forever. Now, you might say, well, how does that make her a central point? Well, because in a sense, character-wise, it kind of causes dissension between her and Yogi. Like, okay, what's going on here? It's like she's wondering if Yogi's saying something that's not true, and vice versa. So, yeah, it definitely is a lesson learned there, and she's basically a central part of that to not believe all gossip that you hear. Now, the last one, which is Mr. Hothead, which she's in, she's a central part. She's definitely a central point there because, or yeah, a central point there because she inherits a dude ranch from her uncle, I believe, from her uncle, and she is trying to get it together to reopen it for business so they can get tourists there. Now, Yogi and his friends, because Cindy, like I said, is his love interest, gets invited to have a vacation there to spend some time. But instead of going there to spend vacation time and relaxation, they decide, okay, we're going to help her get this up and running, soon. Now, what's interesting about this one is you have a character called Mr. Hothead, who basically, like I said, his thing is he loses his temper easy. So he tries to impersonate someone called Mr. Conehead, and who basically wants to trick Cindy into, according to, and this is the synopsis Wikipedia puts, trick Cindy into selling her ranch to him. Now, basically, you kind of get the idea of what will happen. How you probably you probably don't have to watch the episode, but I do suggest you do to check it out. You probably don't have to watch it to kind of know what's going to happen to Mr. Hothead in the end. Um, but anyway, yes, Cindy is the only regular character that's kind of appears on and off in the series. Mostly appears two times because she's like a central point of each episode. And like I said, I know some people watching this might say, "Well, why didn't they make her a central part of the episode and of the series to begin with?" Well, because they had the Hillbilly Bears as part of the crew. And when I say they had the Hillbilly Bears, if I can find her name here somewhere, hold on. Because they had the Hillbilly Bears, they had the daughter there, which was Flora. Flora was the daughter, and when one looks at between her and Cindy, now there is a difference. You can definitely tell with the animation style there's a difference, but still, it's like, why do you need two young, I guess you could say, attractive female bears, anamorphic female bears, on the same ship when you already have one that's coming in as a part of her family? So yeah, she was so so yeah, that was the reason, from what I can understand, or from what I see, why Cindy wasn't brought in uh, as part of as part of the as a full member of the crew, even though it would have made some sense to do that. You need, I guess, in a sense, you needed an anchor for Yogi to have, for Ranger Smith. Basically, you need some kind of an anchor for Yogi to go back and visit Jellystone besides visit Ranger Smith. Like I said, you need some kind of anchor there, a reasoning for him to go back, even if it's for like a day or a few days. And I guess Cindy was that reason. And again, like I said, um, she also played a central point. Like you had to have a reason for her being there, and that reasoning was her being part of a central part of the story. It's like you had to have a reason to for her to be there. I know it sounds confusing. I do apologize, but basically that's about it. Now, what's interesting about this, and I talked about this, I believe, in my animated girl profiles confidential episode where I talked about Cindy. What's interesting about this actually predates, definitely predates by at least 15 years, the new Yogi Bear show, where we got introduced to an extension of her family, her mom and her niece. And this kind of is an extension. And the reason I say this kind of predates that because she inherits this dude ranch in the last episode, I think, from an uncle. So yeah, it definitely shows you that definitely shows you that Hanna-Barbera, definitely wanted to extend a lot of the characters' family, extend a lot of the characters beyond who they were, kind of extend into other areas like who the family's members were, where they came from, the origins. You can definitely tell they had a lot planned for the characters. And Cindy obviously seemed to be a central part of that. But overall, Yogi's Gang is definitely a fun series to watch. Looking back on it now, which is about, oh man, 43 years, it's still worth watching. The animation, it can vary at times. Mr. Hothead was kind of like an example of like the animation could be smooth at times, but kind of blocky at times. Gossipy Witch was more of an example of how it could be smoothed out, but a little blocky. But still, it was again, it was a decent show. Yeah, it only lasted for 1 year, but what are you gonna do? It was a show that I definitely say that if Warner Brothers wanted to reboot a series, this is the series they need to reboot because one, it would definitely coincide with the whole educational thing that a lot of groups, a lot of parental groups out there that are associated with the FCC want to see. So, but that's all I'm gonna say on Yogi's Gang here on the Cartoon Flashback HD. Thank you for all for watching. Sorry for that little Kadoo earlier. That was just me trying to type in the word Yogi's Gang and the word gang into there because, and apparently it had to, I guess, still set itself up or something. I don't know. But let me know what you guys think down below. Comment if you like, and I will talk to you all later. And I do suggest picking this up off Amazon.com or through the WarnerArchive.com. So, peace out. God bless. I am done.